Day 523. Today there is a lot of news from the south. First of all, more information became available about the recent strike on the Chonhar bridge that connects Crimea to the Kherson region. Russian sources circulated footage of the intact Chonhar bridge to back up the claims of the Russian Ministry of Defense that all missiles were shut down. Unfortunately for Russians, today Planet Labs released satellite footage that clearly shows that Ukraine successfully destroyed a section of the railroad bridge. It turned out that the circulated footage showed the intact section of the bridge, while the huge hole was located right to the left. Even though the Russian military and media tried to restrict access to the area, today someone finally took a picture of one of the holes in the bridge. The collapsed section hasn't still been shown, which indicates that Russians likely tried to show the section with the smallest damage to minimize the backlash. As mentioned last time, such developments undermine Russian logistics significantly. It is true that Russians can supply the Zaporizhia group from the east, however Russian forces simply cannot rely solely on this supply line. Firstly, most ammunition depots and warehouses with equipment are within HIMARS range, and after Ukrainians got Storm Shadow missiles, even Mariupol and Berdyansk became unsafe. Secondly, given the risk of strikes, the supply leverage is extreme, as Russians need to travel half a thousand kilometers to supply the Kherson group. That is why, thirdly, over the last 8 months, Russians have moved all of their warehouses, ammunition depots and operation centers to Crimea, assuming that this is a safe haven. And that is why, by destroying Russian bases and logistics in Crimea, Ukrainians are creating substantial problems for the Russian Zaporizhia group. In fact, over the last week, Ukrainians exploited Russian problems with logistics and penetrated Russian defense by 5 kilometers. Last time we discussed this region, I told you that Ukrainians evened out the front line and were preparing to launch an attack on Robotyne. Soon, Ukrainians started attacking Russian positions in the tree lines west of the settlement, and Russian analysts concluded that the main goal of Ukrainians was to split Russian forces into groups and enter Robotyne itself. However, it turned out that Ukrainians were just improving their tactical position, and the main attack happened east of Robotyne. If we look at the topographic map, we can see that Ukrainians chose to advance in the lowlands. There are 3 reasons for the choice of this attack vector. First of all, Russian forces expected Ukrainians to continue to move along the ridge, which is why this direction was heavily reinforced. Secondly, Russian forces did not fortify this area as much, so their defense here was quite weak. And thirdly, Ukrainians could assume a very convenient position in the forest that would allow hiding troops and equipment right in front of Robotyne and also control the eastern side of Robotyne from the part of the forest that is located on the hill. In order to make this work, Ukrainians once again played along with the Russian expectations and launched a series of attacks from the north and west, but only with the aim to fix Russian forces. Once they successfully drew the attention away from the main direction, they penetrated Russian defenses from the east. Due to the rigidity of the Russian army, Ukrainians successfully used this tactic multiple times. Very soon, Russians released geolocated footage, confirming that Ukrainians established control over the Russian trenches east of Robotyne. Next, Ukrainian forces started attacking Robotyne from the east, while simultaneously getting deeper and widening the bridgehead. Geolocated footage confirmed that Ukrainians gained a lot of ground in front of Verbova as well. The footage shows how Ukrainians were already testing the Russian anti-tank ditch by sending an empty armored fighting vehicle into it. The driver was seen jumping out of it in advance. The latest update suggests that Ukrainians are already operating in the vicinity of Novoprokopivka. In total, Ukrainians managed to advance by 5 kilometers in all directions and develop a significant bridgehead between Robotyne and Verbova. For now, the intensity of clashes has temporarily decreased due to the rain. However, if Ukrainians make one more such push and enter Novoprokopivka and Verbova, Russian flanks will start to collapse. If you're against the invasion of Ukraine and you want to support the work that I am doing, consider making a purchase in the online store UA Supporter. Here you can find a lot of products with Ukrainian symbols to not only show support for this channel, but also for Ukraine. The link to the online store is in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next report.